Hello there and welcome. So you've watched the spotlight and decided to pick up Zul'jin. Now let's learn how to get the most out of him. In this video, I'll be teaching you how to master the latest addition to Heroes of the Storm. I'll assume you have a basic idea of how his abilities work. If you haven't seen the spotlight, you can check it out using the link in the description. Now, let's get started.
Let the killing begin!
So let's start by talking about Zul'jin's role in-game, so we can kind of get into the mindset. Although he's labelled as an assassin hero, and for the most part he is, I would more define him as a skirmisher. He excels at both long confrontations and quick, explosive fights, but he's particularly adept at trading with his foes. Getting in range, throwing out his abilities, trading some attacks with his enemies, and then backing out, regenerating lost health, then jumping back in with a newfound health advantage is one of Zul'jin's big strengths. That said, he can also be an all-in assassin if you build him for it, which works particularly well if you have a healer backing you up. This ties into your goal as Zul'jin. You want to deal as much damage as possible, either to the enemy heroes or to their structures, whilst dying as little as possible. This last part is especially interesting for Zul'jin, since his health directly ties to his damage output. So you'll be playing a game of juggling your health so that it's as low as you're comfortable with, so that you can deal the maximum amount of damage without you dying because you underestimated how easily an enemy could kill you. Positioning Zul'jin is crucial. Since he has no movement abilities of any kind and only one talent that mildly increases his movement speed, you'll have to pay attention to where you're standing so that most of the time you have something between you and your enemies. Feel free to move forwards a little more than most ranged assassins since you can regenerate your health, but never wade into a fight unless you're cleaning up your enemies as they run away, or you've got a lot of backup from support heroes. And be wary of attacking unguarded structures unless you're absolutely certain you know where the enemy team is. Leave early and play it safe. Zul'jin's greatest weakness is his susceptibility to ganks. If you get jumped on, you're in deep trouble. A good piece of advice here is to constantly, and I mean constantly, glance between your character and your minimap. Making this second nature is a great habit to get into. Now let's discuss Zul'jin's talents and a few builds that you should consider while in game. Naturally, these all depend upon what map you're on, who your allies are, and what enemies you're up against, and they're all just example builds. Let's start with a default attack damage build. This focuses on turning Zul'jin into a devastating auto-attack hero. U1 Axe starts off strong, incentivizing you to trade aggressively early, just don't overextend. Overextending with Zul'jin is easy to do and very often fatal. At level 4, Troll's Blood turns Zul'jin's sustain into some serious healing, allowing him to stick around long after most other assassins have backed off. At level 7, picking up Recklessness makes Zul'jin even more dangerous when low on health. The natural level 10 talent here is Tazdingo, giving Zul'jin that moment of glory at 1 health where he can devastate enemy heroes. For your level 13 talent, picking up Forest Medicine is a good idea, since you can continue to attack or flee from a fight turned sour whilst regenerating at the same time, which can be life-saving. At level 16, Ferocity will make Zul'jin even more dangerous, synergizing nicely with his other talents, and at level 20, Amani Resilience can let Zul'jin heal for a good half of his health pool if he can plant his feet and start hurling axes during Tazdingo. This is your basic attack damage build, but it has 3 major weaknesses: hard crowd control, kiting, and blinds. Getting stunned as Zul'jin is often a death sentence, and since you only have one ability to slow your foes, if they can dash away from you or dodge it, this build won't offer much recourse for you other than to simply back off or potentially overextend when facing an enemy trying to kite you. Finally, blinds will completely and utterly destroy this build, especially a well-timed blind during Tazdingo. Take note of who you're up against. An enemy Lili, Johanna, or Auriel can completely shut down this build, so consider another instead. Let's go over an alternative build now. This one focuses on striking opponents with Grievous Throw and hitting them hard with burst damage. At level 1, pick up Bone Slicer for the bonus damage and added Wave Clear with your Q. At level 4, hit up Troll's Blood again. At level 7, grab Vicious Assault, which is the heart and soul of this build. It turns the basic combo of hitting an enemy with Grievous Throw and auto-attacking them into a more sustained damage combo, and dramatically reduces the ability's cooldown while in a fight. At level 10, pick up Tazdingo once more, to let you wade in at key moments. At level 13, pick up Eye of Zul'jin to add some much needed movement speed. At level 16, pick up Lacerate for some extreme slows. And at level 20, grab Amani Resilience again. This build is a bit more bursty, focusing on hitting with Zul'jin's Grievous Throw and following up with basic attacks to deal heavy damage and reset the ability's cooldown. It is particularly good at jungling, clearing minion waves, and taking down player-supported bosses like the Immortals, Grave Golems, or Garden Terrors. It does, however, rely upon hitting Grievous Throw, so missing with it can be a big problem. Stuns and blinds are naturally still an issue for this build, but kiting Zul'jin is much more difficult when his Grievous Throw grants him movement speed and his Twin Cleave slows so much more. One last build before we discuss situational talent choices. This one is the I really don't want an auto-attack build because if I get too close, I'm going to explode build. Strong against extremely heavy burst teams, this build will focus on Zul'jin's abilities more than his auto-attacks so that you can throw them out and back off. At level 1, pick up Arcanite Axes, which will start off your focus on abilities. After that, grab Troll's Blood at level 4. At level 7, nab Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which rewards careful aim with Twin Cleave, but is actually easier to hit with than you might think. At level 10, pick up Guillotine, noting that you get a small indicator in the bottom left as to how much damage it's going to deal, which is a very nice and handy element. At level 13, grab Forest Medicine to keep yourself mobile. At level 16, grab Swirling Death to make your Twin Cleave even more dangerous. And at level 20, pick up Ensnare. This, if you can hit it, lets you immediately throw out your Twin Cleave and Guillotine for extreme burst damage, or you can simply use it to stop someone from jumping on you.
First blood.
This build is more combo-oriented and lets Zul'jin safely poke at his opponents from range whilst waiting for an opportunity. It's pretty strong against enemy teams that have a lot of burst damage or heavy grabs, like Artanis or Stitches. But its single-target sustained damage is somewhat weaker than other builds, and it will lose to other Zul'jins in a complete one-on-one duel, which can be pretty common this early in a release cycle, especially if the other Zul'jin is going for pure attack damage. In these situations, you need to back off. Finally, a few situational talent picks that you might want to consider regardless of your build. Let the Killing Begin at level 4 is a great talent to pick up if you're using a basic attack build and you have healers on your team, especially if one of them is teaming up with you. This triggers off of anything, so it can be very good to farm up a minion wave and then jump on an enemy hero. It also makes cleaning up teamfights really nice. Of course, you sacrifice Troll's Blood for it, so make sure you have a healer to back you up. Additionally, it can also be worth it to pick up Headhunter in this tier if you've got healers and you're going down the safer ability-focused route. It also completely shuts down stealth heroes, which is incredibly helpful. Finally, Voodoo Shuffle is a great pickup if you find yourself without supports and your opposing team has a ton of slows and roots. This one can be a lifesaver, but again, it's situational. Right, onto gameplay. Let's start by covering Zul'jin's ability combinations. The Trade combo is your basic means to throw out a big burst of damage when trading with an opponent. Approach your foe with Berserking toggled on, open with Twin Cleave and Grievous Throw, but bear in mind that Twin Cleave's range is slightly longer than that of Grievous Throw, so move in a little more than maximum range to hit both, especially if they're backing off. Then hit them with 3 attacks, if you can, to trigger all of Grievous Throw's bonus damage. Hitting all 3 isn't going to happen every time, so make sure to back out after 2 or maybe even 1 attack if there are other enemies nearby and you're otherwise threatened. Once you've backed out to a safe location, regenerate any health you've lost in the trade and move back in for another, now with a health advantage. You may also want to just try and kill them at this point. The dueling combo is similar to the trade combo, but this will happen in a situation where it's live or die between you and an enemy hero. Use your Grievous Throw as much as possible, right into your enemy's face, while auto-attacking them with Berserking active. Use your Twin Cleave to the side of your opponent. When you're either in melee range or at your maximum range for attacking, your Twin Cleave simply will not hit your enemy if you fire it directly at them. Take the time to aim to the side so that they're hit by it. If you get low, hit Tazdingo and finish them off as quickly as possible. Then, hit regeneration as soon as they're dead and the damage has stopped to survive any kind of damage over time or minion attacks. Remember that regeneration is not cancelled by damage over time. If you're running Guillotine, try to use it at about 1/3 health, since the cast time and delay will see you dead if you use it at extremely low health in a duel. Make sure to aim it at an odd angle, where you'll think your opponent will flee to when they see you cast it, but not so far as to miss should they decide to not move. Now, a few tips and tricks for Zul'Jin's various abilities, starting with Grievous Throw. Remember that it pierces the first target, so you can throw it through the backline of the minion wave at an enemy hero to mark them, or through a warrior and into their backline if you're close enough. Aim it through mercenary camps to mark everything you can. The mark will last for 8 seconds, so you can bank one mark whilst triggering the other. This is very helpful for jungling. Twin Cleave is a very unique ability in that its pathing is unlike any other ability in game right now. Throw it at an enemy in front of you and it will miss, spectacularly. The key here is to aim it at an odd angle. Come at a minion wave from a 45-degree angle to cleave both the back and front lines with a single strike. Practice this as much as you can. It's very easy to forget the pathing of this ability mid-fight, especially early on. It is, however, a pretty long-ranged attack. Aim it at an angle in front of you as you flee to force enemies to run through it, slowing them. Throw it out at an enemy gate to hit it, both towers, and any heroes that are poking their heads out. Use it to scout bushes through terrain, but remember that heroes in the center of the circle will not be revealed. Regeneration is a simple enough ability, but it has one very major quirk that you need to consider. It will heal you for a small amount instantly, even if you're in combat. So, tap it when you're in a desperate situation to get a clutch heal that might just save your life. Even if you're in the middle of a teamfight, letting it channel for half a second or so as you reposition can net a useful amount of health, even if an enemy knocks you out of it as soon as they see you. They will not be able to stop that first heal and maybe a tick or two as well. Tazdingo is the clear moment of glory ability for Zul'Jin. Use it to survive a long-ranged snipe, an incoming pyroblast or triple tap, or to turn a close duel to the death into a runaway victory for you. But it has some pretty big weaknesses. First, any kind of stun or blind will shut Tazdingo down, forcing you to probably run. Second, any kind of large area of effect, like Reyna's Hyperion, will finish you off instantly if you're not out, or if you're not healed by the time Tazdingo ends. Third, dots will destroy you, so make sure you hit regeneration early to try and survive them. Fourth, it's not automatic. If you're surprised by damage, it's useless to you. For this reason, if you're up against heavy burst heroes like Nova, Zeratul, Chromie, or some kind of wombo combo team, do your absolute best to hit Tazdingo earlier than you think you'll normally need it. Even if you don't get reduced to 1 health, knowing that you're unkillable will make most smart opponents back off unless they have a clear advantage over you. Guillotine is somewhat simpler. The perfect situation to use it is when you escape with barely any health. You can hang around in the backline, assuming no one's flanking you, and hold off on regenerating until you see a target to throw your guillotine at. This is especially powerful on objective maps like Braxis Holdout, Cursed Hollow, Towers of Doom, and Battlefield of Eternity, where the narrow corridors your enemies will be in will restrict their movement. Guillotine is also a great way to surprise someone who's chasing you. Beware a low health Zul'Jin. Before we move on, a quick note about Zul'Jin's mana. This is by far his most constraining resource, especially if you're going for an ability-focused talent build, or you just like throwing axes everywhere. Be wary of overusing your abilities. Unless you can hit multiple enemies with Twin Cleave, or you can hit both the hero and the minion wave, hold off on using it as a mere damage tool unless you need the slow. Regeneration costs the most mana of your abilities, and you pretty much always want to have it available, so be very careful about engaging in fights while at low mana. And never, ever enter a fight without the mana to use Tazdingo. Alright, now let's discuss facing your foes. How to behave in duels, ganks, lanes, contesting objectives, teamfights, sieging, jungling, and your moment of glory. First up, duels. Zul'Jin is a fantastic duelist if he picks up Tazdingo. Almost any foe is going to back off in a straight up duel if you activate this, and by following up Tazdingo with a twin cleave, you can slow them as you flee, or you can slow them until they're dead. Just beware of overextending, and beware any ability that will crowd control you. Avoiding these is essential to winning duels, as Zul'jin's damage is so consistent. A smart enemy will also try to crowd control you right before you hit Tazdingo to finish you off. Ideally, you'll enter a duel after you've traded and regenerated a health advantage, but if you're at a disadvantage, remember that backing off with Tazdingo to save your life can oftentimes be better than both you and your foe dying at the same time, or worse, you dying before you can finish them off. When ganked, Zul'jin has to make a decision: run or fight. For most heroes, being ganked will often necessitate a dash or a crowd control ability, and up till post 20, Zul'jin has nothing to control his foes or to dash away. This means that your main goal as Zul'jin, early game, where most ganks happen, is to not get ganked. Keep a constant eye on your minimap and back off as soon as you feel nervous. Zul'jin might very well be able to take an opponent with him as he's ganked, especially with Tazdingo, but it will still result in your death. If you are ganked and you're far away from the safety of structures or teammates, accept your fate. If you try to run, you'll just be finished off as you waddle away uselessly. Strike out at the weakest opponent and deal as much damage as you possibly can before dying. Hit Tazdingo if you won't need it for an upcoming teamfight or objective, but only if you're sure you can use it to take someone with you. Don't just hit it, and don't kill anyone with it. While in lane and not being ganked, Zul'jin is a nightmare for his foes. Twin Cleave at a 45-degree angle will mince through minions and poke down heroes, but it also opens up an opportunity for Grievous Throw and harassment or trading. You don't need to run behind a gate to regenerate, do it out in the open if your opponent is backing off, or even consider using it as a means to bait them into an unfavorable exchange. Again, be careful about overextending as you have no means of escape. Push only when you know where the enemy team is, and only on larger maps. Small maps like Tomb of the Spider Queen and Dragonshire are very dangerous to push on, since enemies can rotate and gank you very quickly. Safe thinking is often better than furiously pushing, even if you can deal immense damage to structures. Contesting objectives is another forte of Zul'jin's. Although your harassment game is average at best, the fact that you can trade with your opponents before backing out to regenerate will have them eager to jump on you when you show your face. Use this to your advantage. Bait out an engagement. As soon as your foe tries to jump on you, back off and let your team counter-engage. Then turn on the damage and get headhunting. If you're contesting an objective solo, don't try to hold forever, especially if outnumbered. Tazdingo and regeneration are great, but you're going to have to channel regeneration away from an objective if you want its full value. If you're up against a single foe, just chase them off. But if they bring friends and you're not confident you can kill both of them with Tazdingo, back off and re-engage with an ally to back you up. Even if you kill one of them, the surviving one will simply take the objective. When it comes to teamfights, the first objective is to actually be in the teamfight. Zul'jin has no way of quickly getting to places, so be there early and get there safely. Predict where teamfights are going to happen, around objectives, around mercenary camps, things like that. Don't wander through enemy territory alone, and don't ever be the one to engage. Even in all assassin matchups, Zul'jin is a lousy engager. What he's great at though is capitalizing on engagement. As soon as someone else gets into range, punish them. Take as many advantages as you can get, whittling down the front line from safety before pushing in with Tazdingo to back you up so that you can annihilate their backline. Flanking an enemy team after they've engaged is also a great idea. Using Tazdingo, you can decimate enemy mages and assassins before their warrior friends can reach you. Just beware of enemy heroes with crowd control. This will destroy you. Zul'jin is pretty damn good in sieges, but you need to be wary about wading in. Wading in is one of the biggest mistakes you can make as Zul'jin. You're very squishy, and if you get caught out while sieging enemy structures, you're going to die almost instantly. Let your teammates handle engaging while you find a nice structure to hammer at with berserking, or just sit there and regenerate. Remember that Grievous Throw will also mark buildings, which is great for ripping them apart. Next up, jungling. Zul'jin can handle pretty much any basic camp after level 10 and getting out with most of his health intact. The only caveat to this is that he's going to lose most of his health in fighting these monsters before he regenerates, so only take out a mercenary camp by yourself if you are absolutely certain you won't get ganked. Against siege camps, open up with Twin Cleave so that it'll hit all enemies. Get to the side, auto-attacking as you go, and hit as many opponents as you can with Grievous Throw. Turn on berserking and hammer away. As you get low, turn berserking off or you're likely to get yourself killed. As you capture the camp, regenerate your health back. This works best if you've picked up the Troll's Blood talent, and overall you'll lose about 20% of your total health, which is really not that big a sacrifice. Against bruisers, you have to be exceedingly careful. They can kill you if you make a mistake. Open up with Twin Cleave so that it will hit 2 bruisers and the caster. Grievous Throw through one of the bruisers and into the caster, turn berserking on, and kill the caster as soon as possible. Then focus on the bruiser that you've marked. At this point, position yourself so that your next Grievous Throw will hit the surviving 2 bruisers. Focus the lowest one down and turn berserking off as it gets low. This will prevent you from lowering yourself low enough for the last bruiser to finish you off. Kill the last bruiser with Twin Cleave and auto attacks. Don't try to solo bosses. It won't work. Now let's discuss what enemies to fear and what enemies you can destroy. In general, you should fear 2 things: control and burst damage. Assassins like Alarak, Chromie, Jaina, Kael'thas, Nova, Thrall, Tychus, and Zeratul can deal very heavy burst damage to you, sometimes taking you by surprise before you can hit Tazdingo, or controlling you so that you can't counterattack. Be especially wary of Alarak, who can silence you and prevent Tazdingo, and Illidan, who will dodge so many of your attacks that you might just want to go an ability build instead. Warriors are also a fairly scary prospect for Zul'jin. Anyone that can engage on him or throw him into their team will be a big problem. Watch out for Artanis, Dahaka, and Stitch's grabs, Johanna's blind, Tyrael, Cho'Gall, and Anubarak's hard engages, Rexxar, Muradin, Diablo, ETC, and Sonya's stuns, and abilities that will either keep you in place or move you, like Leoric's Entomb, Zarya's Graviton Surge, ETC's Mosh Pit, Cho'Gall's Upheaval, and Varian's Taunt. Varian also has a parry, which can shut you down entirely. Keep your distance and let these warriors engage on other teammates before you move in. Support heroes are generally Zul'jin's easiest targets, but some of them are a nightmare for him. Beware Auriel and Lily's blinds, especially as you hit Tazdingo. Fear Brightwing's Polymorph, Malfurion's Roots, and Tyrande and Uther's stuns. All you need to do is get them to use these abilities on other allies or back off after you've been hit by them, then move in and do some damage. Finally, specialist heroes are generally easy kills. Just be careful of Abathur mines that might finish you off before you can regenerate, or after Tazdingo ends. Medivh can completely neuter your guillotine, Sergeant Hammer can pick you off from range, but can be countered by simply walking up to her with Tazdingo at the ready to force her to back off. Zagara's minions are a pain to deal with, as is her creep movement speed because she can kite you, and Zul has a root and an absorb shield that you're going to have to get through. Some enemies, however, are easy targets. Get around Chromie and she'll be in trouble. Faustad is similarly an easy kill in this situation. Greymane will jump on you, but if you can use Tazdingo early, he'll be without damage or a means to escape. Gul'dan will kill himself for you, so you can take advantage of that, but beware of his corruption ticks. The nice part is, they won't stop regenerate. Jaina is an easy kill if you can get her cooldowns on other teammates, same story with Kael'thas. Nova can't do anything to you that Tazdingo won't solve, but only if you can jump on her when she's not expecting you. Ragnaros is easily kited, but beware of his Magma Wave and Molten Core. Reyna is an easy kill in a duel, but only if you can get the first hit in. If you hit Samuro with Grievous Throw before he uses mirror images, you'll know which is which. Tracer's Pulse Bomb can be countered with Tazdingo, and your auto attacks don't need to be aimed at her, so she's pretty easy to kill as well. Vala is a similar story to Reyna, just get the first hit in. Enemy Zul'jins can be beaten if you can force their Tazdingo before yours. Supports like Karazim, Lieutenant Morales, Rhaegar, and Tyrande are easy kills as well, but they'll usually be around allies, so beware. Finally, most specialists are also pretty easy to kill. Abathur can be annihilated if you can catch him, Azmodan can't out-damage you at close range, Gazlo's turrets can be used to get you lower health before you go for him, and your bonus damage can let you destroy them nice and easily. Medivh's shield can counter your guillotine, but not your constant damage. Murky can be killed before he can hit his bubble if you surprise him, and your attack speed can destroy his pufferfish very quickly. Nazeebo is an easy target to kill if you can get close, but beware being trapped in his zombie wall. Sylvanas is similarly easy to kill if you can surprise her or catch her without her haunting wave. Zagara herself is fairly squishy if you catch her off guard, and you can just run over the Lost Vikings. A few notes now about working with your allies. Firstly, Zul'jin's utility. It's not incredible, but don't underestimate Twin Cleave's slow, and more importantly, don't underestimate how terrifying Zul'jin can be. Simply showing up with Tazdingo at the ready can force all but the most dedicated of chasers away from a low health ally. If they keep chasing, murder them. If they back off, throw your abilities their way to bop them in the bod before they get out of range. Zul'jin pairs incredibly well with warriors and stuns. Anyone that can peel for him or keep an enemy in place will make Zul'jin a very, very happy troll. Sit there and throw axes while your teammate keeps an enemy in range. It's a devastating combo. Next, a few words about how to communicate. Firstly, your team will need to know when you intend to go whole hog with Tazdingo. Alt-click on the ability to let your team know that you're ready to use it. This will signal to them that you're about to do something reckless, and that backing you up can result in a sweeping victory in a fight. Additionally, if you're in lane and you're low on mana, alt-click on your mana bar as you back off for the healing well or hearth towards base to let nearby heroes know that you need to retreat. As Zul'jin, you're going to need to know when to back off and when to fight. More often than not, jumping in to save or avenge an ally that's outnumbered is going to end poorly for you, unless of course your enemies are at low health. Don't charge headfirst into a situation that's going wrong if you're not positive that you can turn it around. Appearing from behind an enemy team that's battered and bruised can result in a huge victory for you, but flanking a beefy, healthy team of coordinated players will only see them turn around and vaporize you, even through Tazdingo. Know when to hide and when to retreat from a bad situation. Live to fight another day. Let's finish off this guide with some map-specific advice, starting with the Haunted Mines. Your damage against the Grave Golems is spectacular as long as you stay safe and don't get picked off, and you can take out the undead in the mines very quickly. But beware being ganked while doing so. If you're caught out, you're probably going to die, so be exceedingly careful. Towers of Doom is a great place to pick Guillotine if you find the opportunity. It's a fantastic denial tool, and thanks to the constrained spaces, you can often hit your target and kill someone. Zul'jin is also great against the Headless Horsemen, the Pumpkin Soldiers, and enemy towers. Just beware the relatively quick rotations on the map. Being ganked is common, so play it safe. Infernal Shrines is another relatively strong map thanks to the prolonged engagements around the shrines. Regeneration will shine here, as does flanking enemy teams for a moment of glory. Just know when to back off, and remember that while Zul'jin's wave clear is strong, the constant waves of skeletons at the shrines can whittle him down surprisingly fast. Oh, and never let a Punisher jump on you. It's going to kill you. Let your friends get its attention before turning on berserking and mincing it. Battlefield of Eternity is great for an attack-focused build. With it, you can obliterate the Immortals with your auto-attacks. If you can find a moment to be left alone, sitting on low health with berserking on, you can deal immense damage to these things, which is helpful even if you lose the fight, as that damage has already lowered the enemy Immortal's shield. Stay safe against pushing Immortals to prevent enemy dives, and consider Guillotine in the tight spaces of the battlefield center. Tomb of the Spider Queen is a pretty scary one for Zul'jin, simply because of how small it is. Ganks are incredibly common, so play it as safe as you possibly can here, and only extend when you know where your foes are or you've got allies around to support you. Your damage against the Web Weavers is strong, but again, be aware of enemies pushing with them. They're going to be eager to jump on you. Sky Temple, with its area denial focus, isn't Zul'jin's greatest map, but he can still be great in the team fights that spring up around the temples. Skirmishing here can be a great idea. Poke your head in, harass your enemy as they fight the Guardians, take a couple of hits, then back off and regenerate. Do this a few times, and avoid getting ganked, and you'll force your foes away. Just beware of hard engagement and let your teammates go in first. Garden of Terror is a strong map for Zul'jin. He can clear the smaller camps of seeds very quickly, and can take down the terrors, both neutral and player controlled, pretty fast. He's also great at destroying plant pots set down by pushing terrors. Just beware the terror attacking you, and don't ever take the terror yourself unless it's a complete emergency. You have no escape, remember, and you're just going to get vaporized as soon as you emerge from it. Blackheart's Bay is a strange map for Zul'jin. It has a lot of wide open spaces, and the constant movement across the map can be a bit overwhelming for him. But try to stick close with your teammates to avoid running into enemies in no man's land, try to set up ganks with your allies around Captain Blackheart, get involved in teamfights as much as you can, spend downtime jungling, and you should be fine. Dragonshire is a strong map, and Zul'jin can do great damage to the Dragon Knight and the structures being pushed by a friendly knight. Regeneration will let you hold on to a shrine solo or constantly skirmish an enemy shrine. Just beware of being outnumbered and beware of hard engagement. Cursed Hollow is a good map to pick Guillotine on. Use the constrained spaces around the tributes to your advantage here, but never ever go in first. Teamfights are common, so stick around and skirmish lightly to keep your foes agitated, annoy them, make them want to jump on you. If they do, they'll also jump right into your team. You're also pretty great against the bosses here, and a Zul'jin pushing a cursed team with his allies can be terrifying. Braxis Holdout is another great map for Guillotine, as a lot of the fighting will happen over the beacons. It can also be used to do immense damage to huge Zerg waves, but beware wasting it here. The big Zerg waves can be a problem for Zul'jin, but when he's pushing with them, he can be a nightmare. Finally, Warhead Junction. With so many points of interest around the warheads spread out across a very large map, Guillotine can do good work here. There's a lot of skirmishing to be done, a couple of bosses to fight, and plenty of pushing to do as well. Zul'jin can do well here, but beware wandering into the large expanses of no man's land by yourself, and beware grabbing a nuke after a close duel. Your opponents will be able to see you channel it, and if you're at low health, you're going to be a big target. Those are all of the tips I have for you regarding Zul'jin. Hopefully this video helped you on your path to mastering the Warlord of the Amani. This is a very experimental video, and the first I've done for Heroes of the Storm, so I would appreciate any criticism and feedback that you have. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in the Nexus.
I'm gonna need that axe back.